Yo, what's up? This is Jacoby from Papa Roach.
This is Ryan Lee.
This is Wes.
This is Bob Force.
This is Rich Roll, and you're listening to Sober Guy Radio.
Yo, what's up? Thank you for tuning in today. Thanks to Humans for bringing us in. And thanks to you for supporting the show. Deep breaths there as I get over a little bit of a cold. And today's topic, which we're going to talk about, how to deal with loss and the impermanence of life. A little bit of a heavy topic today. And I want to first say right up front, I don't have all the answers. And I don't come on this podcast and claim to have all the answers. What I do have is some personal experience and some thoughts I'd like to share with the hope that I can add some value and some thoughts to make you think a little bit and to make you ask yourself some questions. In fact, I probably have, and I feel like I've said this before, I have more questions than I have answers. But I think that's really what this is about, is being able to communicate in a way and listen in a way to open our minds up to think a little bit. And although you can't respond directly, you can definitely respond at thatsoberguy.com. You can go there for past episodes. You can check resources. You can contact us there. You can help support us. But most importantly, you can contact us and leave us feedback. You can do that on iTunes by leaving us a review, or you can also reach out directly to us on the contact form at thatsoberguy.com and engage with any of the past podcast episodes. If you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you want to hear some different topics, you have some ideas, please go there and check us out. Means a lot to us to hear your feedback and hear what you guys are thinking and getting into out there in the recovery community. So thank you again for your support there. Now, real quick, if you have questions about whether or not you or loved one may need some help, you can contact Foundations Recovery Network at 877-714-1318. They have nationwide residential and outpatient facilities, and they can provide a confidential assessment and review some of the best treatment options for you or your loved one in the situation that you might be in. Once again, that number is 877-714-1318. And speaking of foundations, many of you have tuned in. We had a lot of downloads in this previous week due to the fact that we put out 10 episodes in the matter of, I think, 2 days down at the Innovations in Recovery Conference in San Diego. So much love to everybody who supported us down there, Foundations, all of our guests who came on the show. Just a phenomenal time to go talk recovery and meet with good people. We did 10 episodes, like I said. You can go to thatsoberguy.com and check them all out there. We talked about CBD and medical marijuana in recovery, which was an interesting conversation with my homie Tad Stringham, who's got an amazing story in itself. I think that's back on episode 93 when he actually came on and shared his own story. So be sure to check that one out, or both of those out. We talked to Hannah Marks, young people in recovery, sober young people. That was an interesting conversation. Rich Cohen with digital aftercare. We talked to Renee Barbeau, the practical shaman, which was, I learned a lot, I guess, in talking with all different types of people and different projects and different ways that they do recovery and live their life. And that's one of the beautiful things that I really am so blessed to be able to do in this podcast. And then I get to come back and share it out there on the platform with you guys out there who listen in the hopes that it can, bring some light and answer some questions and create some good content, some good conversation going around that stuff. So, man, what else? We had TJ Woodward. Man, TJ is a good homie. We've talked a couple of times on the show, and he gave me his book, Conscious Recovery, which is he got a workbook to accompany that. You can check that out. All that information from his episode is in there. I think that's episode 186 with TJ Woodward. He's got actually, as this goes live, he'll be doing the Modality 2018 conference out in San Francisco with Noah Levine, which is going to be an awesome thing. We talked to Brian O'Shea, how to help families deal with addiction. Brian's a guy who I've been trying to hook up with for quite a few conferences, and finally had him on. Just, man, out of all we talked, everybody is grateful and got, phenomenal attitudes, and you can learn a lot from everybody. But I got to say, out of everybody, Brian probably approached with the most gratitude out of anybody, man. Just a genuine dude, and a guy who's really passionate about what he does in interventions and helping families and helping other people. So it was great to have him on the show and hear his thoughts on families and how families deal with addiction. We had Jana Woodbury on from the Chadwick House. Jana, the Chadwick House is out of Costa Mesa in Orange County. I believe it's Costa Mesa. I definitely know it's Orange County, but it's a women's recovery home, and it's part of the Ohio House. Brandon Stump and Brandon's team, the whole Stump family, man, from Carly to Keith to Brandon, everybody in that, they're just doing some great work. And I know beyond the family, they have a great team outside of that, from the Ohio House, the Chadwick House, and everybody involved in there. So big thanks to them for having Jana. I got to say Jana because she spells her name Jaana, and so you got to get the Ana in there. She knows what I'm talking about. Little inside joke there, but man, much love to them. Thank you for coming on. We talked to Lauren Silvinsky from the Phoenix. The Phoenix is I almost said exercise, but that's just not a good way to describe what the Phoenix is, because it's not just about exercise. It's more about wellness, overall wellness, and they do that through physical exercise. But they're a nonprofit organization, and it's really, that's what I'm looking for. I'm kind of looking at some of the notes here, the show notes from that episode. It's a sober, active community. So please forgive me, Lauren and folks at the Phoenix for not saying that up front, but it's a sober, active community for individuals recovering from substance use disorder and trying to live sober. They do CrossFit, climbing, yoga, running, boxing, all types of cool stuff down in Orange County. And they're helping folks out there stay on the sober path and do it in a positive and healthy way too. So man, just who else? I know we had two more. Oh man. So we had Mick, I'm going to mess Mick's name up now. McGare. It's not McGare. I can't remember how to it's Irish and I can't remember how to pronounce it now. So Mick, forgive me there, but who is a lawyer. He's a veteran. He talked about body brokers and body brokering. I know there's a big push in the state of California right now. And I believe Ryan Hampton and team has been behind a lot of that with people trying to broker people into rehabs and get them into rehab facilities. And, Mick came on and talked about a little bit about that and what that looks like and how people go about that and how it is illegal. And it's not morally right, obviously, in addition to that. So that was an interesting one. And then, man, my friend, and this is last but not least, and then we're going to jump in. We're going to jump into some of the content that we're going to discuss today on how to deal with loss. Dr. Ken Starr. And man, Ken was across from me in the booth in San Diego, and him and I got to chat a little bit and got to know each other. And really great guy, really knowledgeable guy when it comes to wellness and his practice, his wellness center. He's the medical director there for Ken Starr MD Wellness. He talks a lot about NAD and also ketamine and how it can be used for recovery. And I don't have time to get into what NAD is or what ketamine is, but it is super interesting. It helps for aging, for pain, and it also helps for recovery. And he's got a lot of interesting things to say on that. So that's episode 182. You can check that there. And one more time, if you just go to iTunes, Spotify, if you go to any of the major podcast platforms, you can find all of our episodes there. And you can also, of course, go to www.thatsoberguy.com and you can check out all of the updated information and shows and show notes and links and everything there too. So please go do that. We appreciate your support. Now, this episode, oh man, how to deal with loss and the impermanence of life. It's an episode, it's content, and it is things, that, it can be tough to talk about sometimes, and I'll kind of explain why, and I think you'll get the point. First of all, I want to dedicate this episode to a great woman that we recently lost. Her name is Patricia Panaghetti, and she's better known as Nani. She was the nucleus of the Matthews, Panaghetti, Dean family. And she was a great lady. She loved God. She loved music. She loved cooking. She loved both of her dogs, Luke and Rebel. And she, of course, loved her husband of 65 years, Chuck, better known as Papa. 65 years. It's a long, long time to be married, and a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice and a lot of learning through all that. And man, boy, did she love Papa. That's for sure. Even though he's a Giants fan, I want to make sure I throw that in there too from us Oakland A's fans out there and the Dodger fans too. But, most of all, she loved her family. Most of all, Nani loved her family. I don't even think to say she loved her family does it justice, how much love that was there. And I can't, stress enough how important that was to her, how important family was, and how much of an impact she had by setting an example of how important family really is, and how, how much that means to have a family. Not everybody has that tight family. And, don't get me wrong, every family has its own things, man. There's drama in every family. I don't care who you are, unless you're Leave It to Beaver, maybe. And I'm sure Leave It to Beaver even had a little bit of drama there, but no matter what, at the end of the day, that's your family, that's your blood. And that's who, that's who we rely on. And, she really taught everybody, those inside the family and those who married in the family, like myself, how important that really is. And she passed away peacefully with family by her side on April 12th, 2018. Her smile, her laugh, her tough, no BS attitude, man, I always loved that. Her readiness for a great conversation, I always loved that too, and I know everyone else really appreciated that. She'd be ready to talk, about whatever topic that was, and let's have a little debate about it, and let's talk about it. Let's enjoy that time. She had a huge heart, and of course, all her love will be dearly missed. And Nani, we know you're up there watching down on us, laughing and dancing, and your body might be gone from this earth, but your spirit and your memory will last forever by the impressions you left on everyone inside the family. So, man, much love to everybody out there who has been there and is going through the loss of Nani, and we know that she's in a better place now. And I'm just honored to be able to say a little something about her today, because she had a very significant impact on me throughout the the 15, 16 years that I've been part of the family. And I'm just very honored and grateful to have had the opportunity to know her and to remember her, most importantly. So that kind of leads us into today's episode of how do we deal with loss, and how do we deal with the impermanence of things. Like, nothing is permanent, whether we're talking about, life or, usually jobs, times in our lives, relationships for some of us, financial issues for some of us, all those types of things. Like, things in life are constantly changing. They're constantly changing. They're always, we're constantly in new seasons in life. And Jess and I kind of joke about this. We say, it's just a season. We're just going through a season right now, and it's kind of funny, but at the same time, it's so true, There's different times in life, and we go through different things at different times. And sometimes things are going great. There's a lot of joy. There's a lot of happiness. And sometimes things can be difficult, and we're going through some times that we wish that we didn't have to go through. And with that said, some of the things that I've been experiencing lately and trying to work on myself and think about in times of joy and in times of anger or resentments or sadness or anything right there is, how am I relating to those certain times? Am I clinging to those times? And I think just as a people, and this includes myself and everybody else out there, we cling to things. We cling to things because that's what we know how to do. We've done that since we were children, most of us. And that's the way that we've kind of been brought up, is to think about things and enjoy them and cling to them. And the thing I've been noticing most is that the more I cling to things, the more that I expect things that give me pleasure or make me feel happy or make me feel good, the more that I expect that, the harder it is when things change. And whether we're talking about certain time in having people in our lives and then they pass on, or we're just talking about certain times when maybe the finances were good and we had plenty of money to, go on a vacation, or we weren't really struggling and now it's a bit difficult, or a relationship where we had everything was clicking really well and now we're feeling a bit disconnected and we don't feel like, we're on the same page. Those types of situations can create, a lot of suffering inside. And like I said before, I want to reiterate, like I said at the beginning of this episode, I'm not coming on here preaching and acting like I have the answers. I don't. I'm talking from, even though I'm not specifically saying the specific situations, I'm really talking from the heart and from experience right now, and some of the things that I have experienced and am experiencing right now. So how do I deal with that? Those times when things are changing, when things are not the way that I expect them to be, or not the way that I want them to be. And also on top of that, how do I deal with the fact that many of these things will never be the way that they were before? That's a tough pill to swallow. It's not an easy thing to face. It's not an easy thing to stand up to. And it can create a lot of pain. It can create a lot of hurt, a lot of sorrow, a lot of sadness. At times, there can be lightness and some joy, because this life is a roller coaster of emotions, day in and day out. But how am I going to deal when those times aren't good? Even throughout that day, maybe the morning starts off great and later on in the afternoon, that pain really hits me. How do I deal with that stuff? And I kind of jotted down some of the more negative ways that we can deal with stuff. And like I said before, this stuff comes directly from me, the way that I have dealt with stuff, and also from other people who I've talked to on the podcast and in real life, and who I've saw dealing with things in life, to cope with the pain or cope with things that, are causing suffering in their life. The first one, obviously on this list for me, is substances. We're on Sober Guy Radio here. Obviously, that's going to be the first one for me that pops into my mind, how I've dealt with pain for a long time and how many of us deal with pain. That is, millions and millions of people out there deal with pain and hurt and this emotion, by substances, by drugs, by alcohol, by prescription pills, which are also drugs too. But I'm just, I kind of lump that together there. There's ways to use those tools, because they are tools, whether it's, a bottle of vodka, a 12-pack of beer, or a bunch of Norcos or Xanax. Those are types of ways to escape that pain and to escape that reality. And that's a very easy fix at the time. That's why I jumped on that for so many years, because that first effect, I can remember, very clearly that first time I got drunk, I puked all over the place. I had my buddy, Dan, his cousin Jason, in the bathroom flipping the lights on and off and on and off and on and off and on and off, kind of fucking with me while I was laying in front of the toilet puking. And it was, that part of it was a miserable experience, but you know what? I drank again within a couple of days. And I'll tell you why. It wasn't because the pain hurt so bad that I was puking and stuff. It was because the relief that it gave me felt so good. To escape that pain, to escape that emotion, to escape that me that I couldn't face even at the young age of 15. So when we're talking about, dealing with past stuff or dealing with present stuff, substances are a huge tool that we use, to deal with some of that stuff. And unfortunately, over the long term, those can really, be a real problem for a lot of us. And I'll speak for myself, for me, because it started out at 15 as getting drunk on the weekends and having some fun. And it turned into, a full blown addiction, by the time I was in my mid 20s, and my life was on a path for destruction. So, kind of moving down the list on some of the other things, because I know I kind of went into a little bit more depth actually than I had planned on with the substances, but I think that's probably one of the main factors in this, in dealing with some of the hardships of life, or just dealing with life in general, and as I kind of go down though, the next one that I kind of jotted down here was denial. I mean, how are we in denial of the pain? Are we in denial of the things that have happened to us in the past? Are we in denial of the things that have happened to us, recently or in the present moment? Are we able to face those things? And let's be honest, I don't want to offend anybody out there who's, really going through something right now, like the loss of a loved one, or the loss of maybe a career where you're really struggling and trying to figure out how you're going to make ends meet. Or, man, if we want to get real, I was going to say real deep, but just real in general, how about we got it. So I talked to a guy at the gym today, and I'm going to start going down this path, but and getting off topic, I guess, is what I'm getting at, but it's really relevant to this. I talked to a guy at the gym today, and he goes, we don't know how good we have it. I wake up every day and I think about people coming over here, from other countries who are war torn, who are in spots of disease, and they can't even afford to eat, and so I know I'm getting off the denial thing here too, but I just want to mention this real quick, and we'll jump right back on that track, is that we have it so good. A lot of us, even going through some of this, what can be some miserable times, at the end of the day, we're still breathing, even though I know I had plenty of days where I kind of wished I wasn't breathing. And I want to say that those are normal thoughts. You're not weird because you're having those thoughts. If you're having those thoughts where you might just think, fuck, I'd just rather die. That's a normal thought to have. And the important thing is that we have an outlet to express that. So, whether it's a family member or a friend or a podcast, even a forum on a podcast, a group inside Facebook, something where you can talk about that kind of stuff. I just want to be upfront and say that those are normal thoughts to have, and you're not weird, and it's okay to feel. The pharmaceutical industry, the drug trade, the alcohol industry, all these things that use they kind of prey on that kind of stuff in order, they want us to believe that we're not supposed to feel, is what I'm getting at here. That goes back to the substances and all that stuff. And the more that I kind of dig into this stuff and realize a lot of the underlining factors when I was actively drinking and using and in denial and going down that path of destruction, so many things come to light. And that's just one of the many, is that, a lot of us have been almost, I want to say, programmed to understand or to believe that we're not supposed to feel. And so it's okay is what I'm saying. And it's okay for me to cry. It's okay for me to feel. And I have a hard time doing that sometimes, in all honesty. I feel like I'm a man. I feel like I have a family to support. I do have a family to support. That's fucking obvious. But, I feel that pressure, I guess is what I'm getting at. And I feel that pressure of things going around me and going on around me, even the fear of loss. How about the fear of loss? I mean, that's a huge one for me. And I'm sure it's a huge one for some of you guys out there listening right now, that fear of what if this, what if that, what if that, what if they say this, what if that happens? What if what if I lose this person? What if I lose this position? What if I lose my fucking mind? How about that one? So, all of this stuff is, let me take a breath. It's very heavy. And it's very thought-provoking, I feel like. I hope it is. I hope it's, you're having some thoughts about this, but it's also normal at the same time. And it's okay. And I want you out there listening today to say, you know what, it's okay. To say that right now to yourself. It's okay to give myself grace, to give myself, to allow myself to have these thoughts, to have these feelings. It's okay. I'm going to feel this today. Whether it hurts, or whether it's pure joy, I'm going to feel it and I'm going to be okay with that. And I'm going to do the same. And I thank you guys for, making up the audience of this podcast and allowing me to get on here, because this is my form of communication. It's a component of it. And I appreciate that. Let me continue down the list before I start going too far down a rabbit hole here. And, the next one on here is, how do I deal with pain? How do we deal with pain? It's anger. We're angry at things. We have, animosity. We have resentments. Also, we just have pure fucking anger at times. Why? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? Why couldn't I prevent that? Why didn't I do more? Why didn't I do less? I mean, those thoughts can just consume us. They can really consume us and eat away at the soul. And until we learn, or at least become mindful of that, which is kind of where I'm at right now, because I don't, like I continue to say, I don't have it all figured out by any means. I'm continuing to learn, though, that I have to be mindful of that anger. I have to be mindful of that denial. I have to be mindful of all of these thoughts that are going through and emotions that are going through my brain, and how am I reacting to that? Am I letting it consume me? Am I flying off the handle because I'm not dealing with a different issue, that is really affecting me on the inside, whether it be from past or present, and that is causing the anger, the resentment, those thoughts of shoulda, woulda, coulda. That's a tough one. And it's oh goodness, excuse me there. I think that's like the second time or the third time in the last 3 weeks I've actively burped on the podcast, and I tried to kind of shadow it there off, leaning off to the side, but I think the talking and the passion and, I fucking suck air in and shit as I'm talking about it. So excuse me there. But let's move on to the next one now. And I just, to kind of bring it back, we're talking about how we deal with some of the pain, and these are some of the more negative ones. And then I'm not going to, to leave it on the negative ones. I have some positive ones and some things that we can do to help curb some of this stuff and to help deal and cope with loss and the unpermanence of life here. So I'm going to get to those in just a second. I just want to finish the last couple ones of these up, and I'll move through these ones quick here. The next one after anger is to stuff it down. Do I stuff things down? And I did for a long time. I stuffed them down. I stuffed them down into a tiny, tiny little box down there, and I tried to forget about them. And for a long time, and for much of the time, I did forget about them. But you know what? They still linger there. They're still in the back of my mind. They're still locked away deep down in this box. And until I work through step work, until I work through a small group, through community, until I get out there and I put myself out there and I start talking about this shit, there's no healing involved until that happens. And, I don't know why I just had this thought, but I thought about going back to my time in the Catholic Church and sitting in the confession booth and confessing some of this. And I was really just a kid at this time. And, there was some relief there, or now for me, doing these types of things in the company of my, a prayer room, or in church, or just in a small group, the admittance, is that a good word? Admittance. I don't know if that's the correct verbiage there, but admitting, some of the things, and talking about some of the hurts, some of the hangups, some of the things that we feel shameful about, guilty about, those things that eat us up, that we've locked away down there, that we've stuffed down for so long. Man, there's so much freedom in releasing that shit. And so I can't stress enough how important it is, to find somewhere that you feel safe to talk about that stuff and to express it and to get it out there. It's extremely important part of the process of healing and dealing with life in general, not just loss, but just life, just the everyday grind of work, of family, of trying to, provide, of trying to take care of the kids. We have all these different roles that we all do. And, man, it's not easy at times, and God didn't design us to live a stressed out fucking life that's full of stress and go, and constant, just, bitterness sometimes, and anger. We're not meant to live that life. Life's too fucking short for that shit. Like, I know I'm dropping a couple F-bombs here, and I apologize. I've really been trying to do, and I feel like I've been doing a good job of letting up on that. And I learned something recently, actually. Let me drop this. And I read this. I'm reading Against the Stream by Noah Levine, and I've one of the greatest things, there's a ton of good stuff in there, so I highly recommend that book. It's really opened my mind up to a lot of the stuff. And actually, a lot of the stuff that I'm kind of talking about today, I got to give credit where credit's due. None of this stuff came from me. None of this podcast has came from me. It's been from shit that it's came from shit that I've learned from other people, and reading and listening and trying to, of course I have my own opinions, but 95% of this stuff is come down from other people and from other people's experiences and how I can relate to that. But, that said, I wanted to mention this, that since I mentioned the cursing thing too, I had read in the book, Noah had talked about his cursing in there, and it became very clear to me, I think the context that we put it in is very important to look at. Now, I'm not saying cursing is right or wrong. I don't really know, to be honest with you. And I'm sure that we can sit and we can debate, and you might have your opinion about it, and I might have my opinion, and everybody has an opinion about everything, right? But at the end of the day, I don't really know. Okay. But the one thing that I do know, and that made a lot of sense to me, was the context of how we use words and how we use speech. And so whether it's cursing or whether it's something else, how are we using those words? And I feel like when I curse, I'm not cursing. I'd be a liar if I said I didn't curse driving down the freeway sometimes when someone is, maybe driving like an asshole. Maybe that's the curse word I might use. I might call them that. It's not okay all the time. Actually, Jess gets pretty pissed off at me when I occasionally do that. But for the most part, there's passion in the speech that I use, because I'm passionate about what I'm talking about. Okay. And I know this is kind of irrelevant here to the content here, but I just want to say, you know what, actually, I'm going to stop right here. I'm just going to say, I learned something on that. I'm going to say fucking shit as much as I want, as long as it's in the right context. Okay. So let's move on down the list here. And I hope that rings a little bit of truth right there for you. And I hope you understand. Okay. Not talking about it. I feel like I've kind of already touched on that with Stuff It Down. So I'm going to move right past that. We got, are we just not talking about the situation? We need to talk about it. And then we're acting like it doesn't bother me. That's another big one. We're just, I'm fine. I'm fucked. How many of us have heard that one? I'm fine. It's not bothering me. Everything's cool. I'm not dealing with it. Stuffing it down. Back to that one. Last on the list of the negative, some of the potentially negative ways we deal with pain and hurt and loss and fear and all that stuff, by staying busy. I'm so busy, I don't have time to think about anything. And, I think that one can kind of border on, positive and negative, because I think there's positive, pieces to that. Especially in early recovery or in dealing with a traumatic situation. sometimes we need to stay busy to keep our mind focused, and we need to stay off of, that immediate emotion at that time. That's okay. As long as we're dealing with it eventually, as long as we're having some tools and we know that we're going to deal with it, we might need to stay busy, but are we staying busy in a healthy manner? Is it through getting some exercise? Is it through, I don't know, a number of things, rearranging our furniture? I mean, whatever the hell it is, cleaning out the junk drawer, going on a walk, any types of things that can help us in a positive manner stay busy, is a good thing. But are we doing it so much that we're just staying so busy that we're in complete denial about the situation, about maybe it's our substance abuse? Are we staying so busy that, we're trying to block out the fact that we're drinking, 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week? You know what I mean? Or are we staying so busy by trying to find a new job, which actually might not be a bad thing, that, I'm just trying to give an example here that, we're not dealing with the hurt and the resentment and the pain and the anger why we lost our last job or something. You know what I'm saying? So there's got to be some balance in there. There has to be some general understanding of that last one. Okay. So let's move into now positive ways that we can deal with suffering, that we can deal with pain, that we can deal with loss. Okay. And, I know I feel like I spent a little bit too much time on the negative parts, and that just kind of happens sometimes. I don't really take an in-depth note-taking thing. I don't write any of this stuff out. I just jot down some talking points and go through it. So I think that's really what makes the conversation or the show, live and real on that part. So my point is I'm going to try to move through this a little bit faster here, and we'll see how the fuck that really goes anyways. But, positive ways to deal with suffering, to deal with pain. Okay. Number 1 on here, the first thing I put down was communication, talking about things. How many of us like to communicate about the way we feel? If you're anything like me, there's crickets playing in the background right now, because and I've came a long way in talking about stuff, but I still get weird about it sometimes. I get weird about telling people, it's funny too. It's funny. I say it gets weird about talking about stuff, but I'm so open on the podcast. You probably find that hard to believe, but in a private setting, in a personal situation, I can get really weird about that stuff. And I kind of equate it to, I have friends who are in the music business, and, a lot of them say that you put them on a stage in front of thousands of people and they're the most charismatic and open and, hyped up and, just energetic people. And they're talkative and they're juiced up, and you put them in a room with a couple of people and they're completely shut down and they're completely recluse. They just want to kind of be, alone. And, different scenario. I know there's a lot more to that, but I think it's a general example of how things can be different sometimes. Things are different depending on the circumstances, depending on the, the mood that we're feeling too. And so back to the point of communication, how am I feeling at that time? And one of the biggest things, and then we're going to move on to community here. This is one of the biggest things that comes to mind for me is when I think about communication, when I think about I'm having thoughts or feelings or feeling a certain way, and I don't want to talk about it, I've learned enough to know that is the exact moment that I should talk about it. And I'm telling you this, and I still don't always do it. I don't. And my sponsor, buddy, the man out there can vouch for me on this because he tells me all the time, hey, you don't have to just call me on the days we meet, right? And I go, man, I know, man. I guess I kind of mask it as like, well, I don't want to bug you and whatever. And sometimes that is the case. I don't want to bug him, and that's stupid because he always tells me I'm never bugging him and whatever. But it's more or less like I lessen things and I make them not as big of a deal as I think they are, or that I feel like they are. And they might not be a big deal, but the important thing is that I should be communicating this stuff. So a definite positive way to deal is just to talk about it. Just openly talk about it. And you'd be surprised how much relief you can get out of that. The next one's community, and being around people, being around, a group of people who can support you, whether it's family, friends, small groups, church, 12-step meetings, even social media groups on like a Facebook group or something. I mean, at least it's not one of my favorites, but it is definitely a tool, and that it can be used, and a lot of people use it, to stay connected. And it's actually a really great resource. And no matter what community it is that you're reaching out to, it's so important. And next to that is not isolating. You got to get involved in community and not allow, that dark force to come in that wants to separate us, that wants to isolate us, that wants to beat us up and make us question everything, because it'll do that. It'll come in. And if we're not staying engaged in letting people into our lives and help us out, when we need to be around them, and we need to talk and communicate and be around other people, I mean, that's an important thing. And I want to say too, with respect to that, sometimes it's just fucking difficult. It really is just difficult to, if we're really feeling isolated. And I went through this for a long time, in just, I don't want to be around anybody. How do I get out of that? How do you get out of that? I mean, how do we break free from that? Because that force, if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. That force can be so strong sometimes that just wants to pull us back and not want to talk to anybody and not want to be around anybody and just be alone. And that can be a scary, scary thing. And so, the best advice I would give, based on my own experience with that, is to talk about it and to open up about it. And, back to what I said, when you feel like, that you should talk about something and, you don't want to, you got to know that that's the best time that you should, and that you should talk about it, even though you don't want to. And same thing goes for being around community. If you don't feel like you want to be around somebody or some, group, as long as it's a healthy environment, you should probably get off your ass and get into that group setting. And, that I say that again with respect to anybody who may be grieving or be in a moment of, of hurt, because sometimes, it takes time, and I want to add that in there too. All of this stuff takes time. This isn't shit that just happens overnight. So, I should have probably said that earlier. Like, this isn't stuff that just happens. It takes patience, and it takes some work, and it takes some time, and it can all come together though, when we're staying in that right mindset. I got a couple more here, and then we're going to wrap this thing up here, but God or a higher power, something higher than ourselves, and I want to say, Nani in particular was a very faithful woman. She had a lot of faith. She knew who God was, and that is an important thing to know. Like, I'll mention my sponsor buddy again, and he said, I'm sure this didn't come from him, came from somebody else. I don't know who, or somewhere else, but you don't have to believe in God, but you should know that there is a God, and it's not you. and if we can kind of put that into perspective, it doesn't have to be what you think God is, or what you've always perceived God is, or what you've been told God is. We only know what we're told, right? Until we research it and start to, dig into it ourselves. We just got to know that there's something. There's something out there that is bigger than us, that is higher than us, that is more powerful than these little beings that we are on earth. And I can't tell you enough, once I started to go down that hole, that, that path, that enlightenment, I guess, not that I'm just some, enlightened, person by any means. I feel like I'm trying to be, that's all I can do is keep trying and try to keep learning and stuff. But, once that thought kind of came over me, and I accepted it, that there is something higher than me. I might not know what it is, but there's something there. Man, the pressure and the relief and the pain and the hurt and the why and the how and the, the anger, the resentment, all of that stuff began to be lifted from me. A lot of the past stuff. Now I'm not saying that I'm not going to ever experience that again. I know that I'm going to actually, and there's some fear involved in there, and knowing that I'm going to deal with loss again. It's part of life. I'm going to deal with resentments. I'm going to deal with anger. But the important thing is that I have these positive resources and positive thoughts and positive people, at my, or in my community, in my reach, to where I can combat some of that stuff, because it sneaks up on you, and it can destroy people's lives. It almost took me out. That's for damn sure. And that's not to say that if I'm not vigilant moving forward, some of that same shit can't take me out tomorrow, or a year from now, or 10 years from now. That's why they say in prayer meditation, it's a practice, and life is a practice. We're never going to have it figured out. I am never going to have this life figured out. Say that to yourself right now. I am never going to have this life figured out. And then I want you to follow it up with this. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And that does something for me, just speaking that out again. It just relieves a lot of the stuff that I don't have to know everything. I can be a 36-year-old man who thinks he should know everything, and especially in my early 20s, I was a fucking know-it-all. I thought I had everything figured out, but the fact of the matter is the older I get, I think I'm stealing a line from, man, buddy, if you listen to this, man, I think that I'm, the more we talk, I find myself repeating some of the stuff that you say, but I think he said this: the older I get, the less I know. The older I get, the less I know, and now just speaking that out loud. And the biggest thing to that is I'm okay with that. I don't need to know everything. I don't need to know why. I don't need to know how. I don't need to try to figure that out, even though, man, I'm a knowledge whore sometimes. Like, I love trying to dive into new things and read and educate myself. And I want to think I'm so smart about things. And I want to know everything from politics to addiction to life to family, how to be a dad, how to be a husband, how to, be good at communications, how to be good at podcasting, all this stuff that I think is so, so important to me. And a lot of it is important to me. And I want to know it all. But at the end of the day, I don't fucking know shit. When it comes down to it, I don't really know anything, and I'm all right with that. I'm okay with that. This is the last one here, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up. And man, this has been a good little session, and I appreciate everybody tuning in today. I hope something I said, has made you think a little bit, and maybe made you have a thought that's gonna change something in your mind, or make you question something, or make you go look into something more. The last one here is actually, there's two of them, and I think they're both important. I was going to skip over the one of them, but I'm not going to, because they're both important. Laughing and remembering good times. What a huge thing. Smiling, laughing, having fun. Back to Rule 62. Don't take yourself so damn serious. This life doesn't have to be so serious. And I say that once again with respect to serious issues. There's no doubt there's serious issues, okay? But at the end of the day, life is short. And we got to figure out, ways to get through some of these serious issues, and the simple ones, and the ones that aren't really that serious that we make huge deals. And a good tool for that is laughing, man, smiling, enjoying the day. Living in the moment. Living in the moment is, man, that's a daily practice for me. And I hope it's a daily practice for everyone out there listening right now. That you're focusing in on living in the moment, living, the old cliche, right? One day at a time. And as cliche as it is, it's so fucking true. Like, you got to live not only one day at a time, but I would even, boil it down to one moment at a time. And that, for me, the more I practice and the more I learn in this is a daily thing, in the moment. doing that consciously. Because throughout my day, am I conscious all day long and mindful all day long? Hell no. I'm conscious and mindful probably a lot less than I'm on autopilot. And I hope to one day get to a point where I can be pretty mindful for most of the day. I'll probably never get there where I'm mindful all the day, but running around on autopilot, letting emotions and all of these things in life that we're it's inevitable that we have to deal with, eat me up inside is no way to live. And I do not want to live like that. And I refuse to live like that. And that's a decision and a choice that I make, that I consciously make. And that's something that we all have to choose. It's your choice at the end of the day. It's my choice how I'm going to respond, how I'm going to feel. Nobody can make me feel a certain way. Not one thing can make me feel a certain way. Unless I allow it to. And sometimes we need to allow certain things to make us feel, if we're talking about circumstances of maybe the loss of a loved one, but at the end of the day, I get to choose. And that's an important part of this. And last but not least, exercise. These are positive ways to deal with hurt, with hangups, with suffering, with pain, with loss. Exercise. Get your ass out there and get on a walk, get on a run, get on a treadmill, take a swim, go to the park, just get out in nature. Man, that's just so huge. And I've really been lacking at that. Other than, we took a great backpacking trip in February, which was huge, but me taking a backpacking trip once every 3 or 6 months just isn't enough. And thankfully in the last 2 weeks, especially since we got away and went down to San Diego, man, I've really been able to get outside and start to feel again, instead of being, so in that pocket of being cooped up and with work and all that stuff. And man, it's difficult sometimes, man. It's a season. We're just going through a season right now. It's just one of those seasons. You know what I'm saying? It's a season, man. And, it's the ups and downs, and we got to flex with it. We got to roll with it. Damn, I can't believe we're already at about 50 minutes right here. It's crazy to me. I planned on talking for about 20 minutes today, and you just kind of get going and get passionate about something, and the power of prayer and the power of connecting to something higher than ourselves. Man, I just can't say enough how powerful it really is when we let go. When we let go, good things happen. And so I just want to encourage you all out there, if you're going through something rough right now, you're going to get through it. It might seem like it hurts really bad right now, and that, that there's maybe no end in sight, whether it's addiction or, whether it's the loss of somebody, or whether it's, anger, whether it's just something that's real shitty right now. You're going to get through it. I promise you that. You just got to hold on. You got to do the right things. And you got to surround yourself, with the good things in life that are going to build you up and not tear you down. And you got to be active in it. You got to go out and get it. Man, let's wrap this thing up. For more information, to check out any of the past episodes, like I said, we had 10 of them we just put out last week. They're all posted up on www.thatsoberguy.com. You can go there. You can support us there. Leave us a review on iTunes. You can donate to the show. You can contact us. I love you guys. I appreciate everybody supporting this. Much love to the Matthews family, the Panaghetti family, the Dean family. Please forgive me if I missed anybody in the family. You all know who you are, and I love all of you. And I just hope that everybody feels light and feels free today, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Is not taking things too serious, even in serious situations. And God wants us to be free, and He wants us to be able to live a life with peace and with joy, even through the tough times. It's possible. Peace, love, respect. Keep your blood clean.